Our 2.15 software update includes the ability to use webhooks. What is a webhook? A simple description would be an event that triggers an action. A webhook can enable us to control things in our environment, such as a light, or send an email using a message created in our AAC system. This video will provide a demonstration of webhooks in action and an overview of how to create one. If you need training on general programming on a device or the chat editor, please visit our tutorial and webinars or locate your local consultant. There are a few things required to set up a webhook. It will require a Wi-Fi connection on the device and also to create the webhook using a computer. Depending on what your goal is, it may require third-party products. It typically requires some setup, such as an application or an account. It will also require some understanding of webhooks and how to program them. There are a number of websites that offer webhook creation services. We have found this one to have simpler wording, ifttt.com. You can decide to use a different one to create your webhook. One tip is to use the chat editor to program the webhook URL created through programming. It will be easier to copy and paste that URL. For the upcoming demos, I use the IFTTT site and these applets. You see an applet to turn a light off, send an email, and turn my office light on. After the two demos, I will walk through how to create a webhook to save text in a Google Doc. First, I'll start with an email example. We might wish for the person using the device to be able to communicate messages to someone via email throughout the day. The messages could be demonstration of work or just socially connecting.
I feel happy.
I have sent a message to my Gmail account using the device and the command. Here is what it looks like in my email. I see my new message, and then here is the opened email. Let's look at the programming on the email button. I edit a button with a label, Send SDB Email. Under the Actions tab, I used an action called Webhook. When I selected Webhook as the button action, the Webhook Settings dialog box opens. This is a URL that was created to send an email. The next box is the JSON code. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Basically, this is programming language. These brackets and $signs are meaningful to the program. Value 1 is assigned to the message of the button, and value 2 is the SDB. In this example, we can use smart technology to control things in our environment. I'll demonstrate a webhook I created to turn on and off a light in my office. I am using a smart plug I purchased through Amazon. Anything plugged into this outlet could be controlled through an applet and a webhook.
Turn light on.
I programmed one button to turn the light on, which used one webhook, and another with a separate webhook to turn it off. To turn the light on, you'll see I have added a speech message only. You heard the command and the light turned on. The webhook button action contained the code you see here. No JSON code was needed for this one. I didn't add a speech message to the light off. It just simply turned the light off. And here you see the programming for the light off, and no JSON code needed. Now let's start from scratch to create a webhook. My goal is to set up a webhook that will send text to a Google document. I'd like the document to be able to continue populating with text created on the device. It will take a number of steps to create the webhook and get it to the device, but with practice, it does become easier. I'm using the IFTTT site to create my webhook. I'll be following these steps to create the webhook. I have already set up my account using my Gmail. I'll click on my name at the top right. This will reveal a drop-down menu. From there, I will select the new applet. Then I click on the plus sign. As you hover over it, you can see that it is something that you can click on. We'll search for webhooks here. Click on webhooks. Step 2 is to choose a trigger, and we will follow these steps. We will select Receive a Web Request. We need to give the event a title. This is something we will need to recall at the end. It will require that we type it exactly as entered here, caps, spaces, etc. I'll title mine, My Writing. Tap Create Trigger. And now we click on the plus sign again. Step 3, we are going to select our action. I stated I'd like to create a Google Doc that can continue to be populated over time. These are the steps to connect a Google Doc. One thing to note is that if this is the first time that you are linking Google Docs, you will select Connect, and it may ask you to select your account. I have more than one Google account, so I selected one of my accounts. You will also have to allow IFTTT to work with your account. You don't see this step with mine because I've already done this step. So I'll search for Google here. I see Google Docs. I'll select it. Step 4, choose our action. What do we want to do with Google Docs? I have two options. One is to create a document. The other is to append a document. I'm going to select Append because I want to be able to continue to populate one document as a writing sample. Select Append to a document. Step 5, fill in the action fields. Under Document Name, I want to delete all the info and then add ingredient of event name. Under Content, I will delete all the info, then add ingredient, and I want value 1. This eventually will become the information in the SDB that will populate my document when the event is triggered. Finally, click Create Action. So first I'll delete, add ingredient, event name, under Content, delete, add ingredient, value 1, create action. Last step, review and finish. I'll be selecting Finish. So if the event My Writing is triggered, then send the SDB contents to my Google document. That's what this says. Now I need to retrieve my created webhook so I can use it. To do this, I'll be selecting my applets, my Services tab, and searching for webhooks. I'll click on those webhooks and I'll click on Documentation. Applets, Services, search for webhooks, click on Documentation, this is where I will create the URL and JSON script using the applet and webhook information. Where I see event, I will type in the event I initially created exactly as I typed it. I will enter my writing. Then for the JSON code in value 1, I'll need to enter a $, curly bracket, SDB in caps, and a curly bracket on the right. Event, my writing, typed exactly as it was. In value 1, $, curly bracket, SDB, curly bracket. Here's where my JSON value went, and here is my link. You will notice the code on the bottom includes the options I have added. These will be the links I need to create on the button on the device that will activate the webhook. There's the JSON code, and there's the URL. I'll be copying those using the chat editor. Next, I will use the chat editor to create my button that will activate the webhook to add the SDB contents to my Google Doc. I'll type in the label as my writing. It could technically be a picture on the button or some other title. I didn't use the message area in my JSON coding, and I will not be using it for a speech message, so I can leave it there or remove it. I'm just going to leave it. Now we will create our button action to store the webhook code. Once I have added the webhook action, the webhook settings dialog box opens and I can paste my URL and JSON code in the appropriate places. If your JSON code is not correct, you will get an error message similar to this one. The code I entered here is correct. It includes all brackets, quotes, and $signs. Tap Edit Mode. I'll edit this button. Type in my writing. Go over to the Actions tab. Select the button action, webhook. Add. And now I need to copy my URL, which I have right here. And my JSON code right here. Tap Save. Tap OK. I'm ready to transfer to my device and try it out. You can use the USB cord to transfer from editor to device, or you could use a new USB flash that includes a micro and USB connection. See the manual for directions. Let's try it out. So on my device, I've transferred that file. I see my writing button is there. And now I'm going to create a few messages so that we can look at the Google Doc that is created.
I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story.
Let's take a look at the document. So this is my Google Docs. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the screen. And it takes a few seconds. And we see my writing. So I'll open that document. And there's the beginning of my story. So I can continue my story now by creating other messages.
What do you want to? Hear. What do you want to hear? I like to dance in the rain. I like to dance in the rain.
And you'll see that it continues to populate with the sentences that I produce. So I would have a running document of anything that I wanted to write. Have fun creating webhooks, creating independence and environmental interactions.